Well, here we are again, coming back to this lovely place. I do believe it's kind of the start of probably our fifth. Yeah, we've got to be on our fifth video now of this wonderful house. Got some exciting news. Some things are going really good right now. We've had inspections today. Everything is tied on the outside. We've got gas line ran and pressurized. We'll get our gas test tomorrow and we can get that finished up so our gas line's tied in inside. We're starting to throw some sheetrock inside. You double check on real quick? We've got our insulation and vapor barrier put on. We had our framing inspection today. So all our framing is passed, our insulation is passed, and all our plumbing is passed. A plumbing inspector had a laugh, not laughed, of just the amount of odd things that we had to do to make stuff work in this house to make it work right, but they totally understood what our situation was. And we're not building a brand new house, but we have to get structural, we have to get everything right. So very cool that everything passed, everyone's happy. We now have a proper tub surround in this bathtub. Good old Tweek's leaving his residues everywhere of, it's a brand new tub, but yet he has concrete splatter in it. So we're going to have to figure out how to clean that without scratching it. There's mud and paint and everything in here, but this is all ready for sheetrock, so we can sheetrock this in. We've had to rebrace the backside of the other beam and get this structurally loaded so that the beam that was going through the middle of the shower is now not there. So now, even me being 6'5", I can almost stand straight up in there and take a shower. I can right now before we put the lid in. Once we put the lid in this, it's going to be pretty tight, basically, or almost 6'5" from the bottom of the tub to the top of the sheetrock. So we'll put a handheld wand here so that the head goes just a little bit higher and you have like a hand sprayer, and that'll have a hand sprayer in here. Water's active, so we can turn water and things on. So very good news on all of that. It looks like a mess obviously now, but once we start getting some actual sheetrock in here and getting some walls covered up, it's really going to start turning around and start looking like something finished. Then I got to get in here and get the coating company to come in with the good grinders, and we're going to grind this slab down, get this slab cleaned up, and so that we can start on flooring and patching our floors in. But that's pretty exciting that all our inspections have passed. We've had electrical, we've got plumbing, we've had framing, we've got insulation. Everyone's good to go to the next step. So basically they said at this point they just need to come back and see, final, come around and look at everything when it's all done. Well, I guess I have one more inspection tomorrow. I have a mechanical inspection for the dryer vent and the gas line, which that should be no big deal. And then we can also start getting our plumbing on this wall and start getting our boiler mounted and get that going. On to the next. Every time we think there's no more Tweek, there was that solar light on the back door right here. Same thing as he did before. Exposed bare wires that he just covered up with that solar panel. With all the inspections going well, and we can start covering all this madness up and start moving forward, these stairs are going to need to get rebuilt or doing something. But before I get too far, I have to also, now that the inspection's been done, I can cover some of this plumbing up. So I want to build a wall right here. We'll get this wall done. And eventually I want to change these stairs. But looking in behind on the steps, how there's like dirt back in here. This originally probably was a dirt foundation. So I'm kind of concerned that the foundation's kind of falling in from where this is. So I'm going to take some of these boards off and kind of examine these steps to see what kind of wormhole that's going to get into. I don't think I can call this a Tweek problem. Those are probably the original stairs on this house from way back in the 40s, but let's pop some boards off and take a look at what I find. Get this here, and it is what I was concerned about. We are just the old clay dirt. So a little bit of excavating, digging this out to reframe and rebuild these sketchy stairs. Yippee! Maybe I'll be doing this sooner than later. So, even worse, so that the dirt's even right up against this bottom edge. So it's going to push into here. These boards are completely rotten. So I'm going to need to cut these completely out, and original plan was finish walls and get walls and stuff in and get stuff here, so then work on flooring, and the stairs were going to be one of the last things to do, but this is going to be a pretty dirty major job, so I think I'm going to work on that. I think that's going to turn into my new priority, is to figure these stairs out and get that done now. So between other jobs and things I'm doing, I will find some parts, get some things, and be working on this between stuff. Yay! I also got a boo-boo. Well, it's been a minute. I'm back at it. I think it's about time I'm going to tear into this and see how bad it's going to be. I can tell you from right there alone, and all that rotten wood, it's not going to be pleasant. I was smart, and I brought a ladder down here, and I put a ladder down here, so once I tear this out, I can actually get out of this hole easier. I do have some extra tools, some extra buckets, and grabbed a shovel and wheelbarrow to start hauling out. I have some pressure-treated plywood and some pressure-treated timbers on top of some other timbers and some quick concrete. I even picked up some fence stakes that I might drive in the ground. I have no idea how I'm going to do this. Figured I'll take you along for the ride to figure this out. So let's tear those out. Tear out was easier than it should have been. And so, yeah, little eggs and some digging and some digging. So I'm going to dig all this out. I'm happy to see, I was kind of concerned, there's actually concrete in a lot of this. So I think I should be able to dig this out. We have kind of a timber there that maybe I can build off of. I don't know if that's holding any support of the house, but it probably was at some point of its life. And cool! Well, let's start throwing this outside, grabbing a shovel, and let's get all this out of here. After stacking all these buckets and throwing everything down, I think maybe I should have waited to do this when I could bring a bunch of the guys over when we're not on other jobs and get this done, but they're actually on bigger jobs that are somewhat making money, and all this house is costing me money, so normally I definitely would be wanting to pay somebody else to be doing this, but I think I can just get after it and start bucket brigading. But this definitely would be a lot nicer with a couple guys to hand buckets up and out. Let's get shoveling. I've been working on the railroad all the livelong day. Oh, yippee skippy, carry the bucket up the roof. All right, I need two hands. I think I have a plan. I do see some concrete there. I think if I dig this straight out as much as possible and square it up and kind of frame it in with some pressure treated lumber, I can at least box that out to kind of free frame or build something. That board there, there we go. Now that's not in the greatest of shape, but that's way above our dirt level. I can sister that or add something there. Back to, I was smart by grabbing a ladder first. All right. Free dirt. Who wants some dirt? Come get your dirt. Dirt for sale. All of no money. All right. Dirt. Dirt's out. Empty bucket. Empty bucket's coming down. Hey you. All my no help. Watch out for the buckets. Here's another bucket. Man, haven't got anyone in my way yet. And again. Maybe there's actually buried treasure down here. And I'll find like a big pot, container, old coffee can full of some gold bullion, and I can pay for this remodel that's getting just a wee bit out of hand. I don't know. Maybe I can find Tweek's number and hire Tweek, and he could come over here and help me dig this. And I'm sure whatever he was taking, I could feed him up on that and just go to town digging like that. Or maybe save everyone some problems of him ever doing this to anybody else. And we dig it just a little bit deeper. And we put him well under 8 feet down and leave him there for ant food. Or worm food, I guess is what that'd be. But I never said anything like that. I would never wish any harm on anybody that would do the amount of work this gentleman did. There's a super old nail. It's kind of cool. Back to digging. I just took the sledgehammer and I knocked out this board that I'm pretty positive Tweek put in for reinforcements down in here because it has his infamous sheetrock screws in it, just like his sheetrock screws all through that. I believe this newer piece of plywood he added that old there, but there is an old tarp underneath that. So at some point, somebody, I'm going to probably even say the previous owners or whatever, dirt was washing out from underneath the steps. They stuffed a tarp up in there and then framed all this in to, keep the dirt from washing back. But my plan is to excavate this all the way out, and then I'm going to take the pressure treated lumber and try to make a corner in here a little bit more solid and with plastic on it. The other thing too is this big 6x6, I don't know if you can see it, but it full on wiggles, and it's kind of what holds up this. So not encouraging. I'm going to have to figure out how to get that braced up without tearing it down or tearing it out. But buckets are full. I'm hot and sweaty. Let's make a couple more loads. Would have never thought that my claw hammer is actually one of the best things to get through this. I couldn't even get the shovel to get into any of this. It's actually pretty dang hard, which is a good sign for not moving. It's also kind of fascinating soils. I have a friend that puts helical piers and jacks houses and foundations, and he's always fascinated with soil content, and it's neat to see the layers and different things in wood, but that is actually old wood to soil when they poured, and that's up into the concrete and that. This is probably some road mix, but then the old soils and down, layers of clay and layers of clay, old roots from long ago something. Keep digging. One thing you can see, getting right down into the clay, see like the white of that clay. So this whole area, what happens if when we get too wet or the moisture comes down underneath the ground a little bit, it has to go a ways down, but it can actually get to that clay layer, and the clays will swell up and it'll act like jello, and the soil will just kind of float. It'll have dry on top and the house kind of moves, and that's where newer construction needs to have helical piers where they drill all the way through with these big screw rods that go all the way through that down into bedrock, and it comes up, and then you can like support the house on the concrete and the foundation all on that solid rod, where you're not just sitting up on all these clays. These old build houses, they kind of did almost the reverse opposite. They kind of just built on dirt and even had dirt foundations, are almost standing and doing fine because the house just kind of sits on top and just kind of does whatever the earth does. So it's back to, heavy concrete foundations, crack lift, the bottom, like some houses, there's a heave inside the foundation, and some people think it's settling the walls falling, but it's actually the center of the slab heaves up because there's moisture building in that clay down underneath the soils. Just kind of interesting when you're digging, the things you'll find. So we have now excavated it pretty well. It's nice and flat right through that. Going to empty all these buckets one last time, and then I think what I'm going to do is, I'm trying to clean this out. I'm going to put pressure treated plywood in here with plastic and tarps and whatever I can to protect it. The bottom of this board is about as not happy as it can be, and this is this heavy 6x6 that's kind of supporting the corner of this house. So I'm not going to completely tear it out, but I've got some other pressure treated timbers. I'm going to take this piece off and that down there, take this outer piece off, and I'm going to run a pressure treated along the bottom, run it all the way down there, and then I'm going to pour fresh concrete into it with another brace on the outside, basically sistering it to make an L piece around that. And then that'll give me something to attach to build this way. I'm going to put a pressure treated 2x6 in here coming straight down, and in here coming straight down. And then I think I'm going to take those fence posts that I have, and I'm going to drive them into the ground as far as I can for the bottom of the 6x6s. And then I'm going to screw and bolt the pressure treated 6x6s to, or the 2x6s to the fence posts. And then I'm going to pour a little concrete around them also. Then with the pressure treated plywood against the backside, 6x6s, fence posts, concrete, then this should be a supported corner. Then I can start building the stairs, and then that should give me something to attach to and build to build the stairs, theoretically. Let's see how it goes. Okay, pressure treated 2x6, a pressure treated 2x10, a pressure treated 4x4, an old piece of pressure treated plywood that has some tar coating on the backside. Let's just stack stuff up and see what might look like it might do something. All right, so far what I'm liking is if I reach up in here, I'm hitting the bottom of the concrete. This has got a concrete slab about this thick, so I've got about this much exposed wood. That's a nice solid, not rotten. I've even reached in and tapped it. I'm going to take this pressure treated 2x10. I can lift it up right here. I'm going to screw it here, but first I'm going to put plastic back here as kind of a moisture barrier, vapor barrier to help protect the pressure treated lumber. And I'm going to push this up into here. I'm going to throw some screws into this and anchor that into here. I'm going to take this fence post, I'm going to drive it into the ground as deep as I can here, cut it off in here somewhere, bolt it to this to hold that into place, and then I'm going to put pressure treated 2x6 here, and then I'm going to pour concrete around that and around that, and that should brace that. And then I'll probably put another board here, and then I'll put a piece of plywood over the top of that whole thing as a solid wall to then build off of. Sure, I mean, because I saw it in a book, and that's what the how to fix your stairs in a sunken concrete foundation book said. So here's some plastic. See if that's big enough to do anything. Nope, I think that's, nope, that's just a little scrap. They keep the plastic down here somewhere. Think they did, think they did, think they did. Here's a brand new roll. Well, here's a brand new roll. I don't think they used a whole roll on this wall. Anyone know where they put it? Did you see it anywhere? Anyone? Anyone? Did you see it? Point it out. No, I'm not looking longer. I'm just going to pull some off of this and cut it off. Double it up and let's build a wall. So, I have this slide punch thing for breaking concrete that was actually left in the house from when they must have been doing demo work. So, instead of a postal pounder, I'm using it on top of the post to split the post, but it is driving it well into the ground. I'm getting the tabs all the way down, so I'm getting a good sink to it. I'm going to keep driving that in, and then, like I said, we're just using that as kind of an anchor point. I'm still going to be pouring concrete around that. I wish I could really get it to go far, but it's really hard ground, so I'm getting into good clay and good clay base. Plastic in behind. We'll put the 4x4 and the pressure treated on this side, but we'll keep pounding. Okay, so the board that has the tar paper on the back, or coated the tar, plastic there, shoved in behind that 2x6, drove in the ground, drove a post nice and deep there to hold that corner. We've got a post drove deep there, post there, screwed into that. These are nice and solid. I'm still going to put a piece of plywood over the top of that to hold back any kind of dirt, but I now need to get my brace on this corner, and I'm going to pressure treat a 2x6 down, probably kill this 2x6 since it's really doing nothing on top, and figure something out. Get this brace, get this brace, get this here. Back to, gotta build something together before I can even think about putting steps in, but I'm really liking what that's done. Yeah, keep moving forward. Okay, this is getting kind of crazy, but I do have a job I need to run to here in a few minutes, so I'm trying to go as quick as I can so I can go to that job. But I've got the board there blocking that in. I've got that. I've got drives going down in my corners, and I've got pressure treated going all the way down into that. There is an old piece of concrete, like they set concrete before they set this pillar way down in the ground. I'm sitting on top of that piece of concrete in. I've got that little puddle built, which isn't much, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour concrete in this hole. That's going to help support this outer board, and that outer board will give me something to build off of to put the steps. That board's not level, but it really doesn't matter because I'm going to build off it. Just gives me some lumber to tie onto. I'm going to pour some concrete down in that corner there. That's going to help support that corner. That with that stake driven in, that should keep that bottom from ever washing out, which is also holding that piece of plywood. That's the pressure treated plywood with the tar coating on the backside that also still has plastic on it up here. Then as I build my steps, I can cut out the plywood of whatever I need. Gives me some solid lumber here to build on, and it gives me some solid lumber out here to nail to build up on of whatever I might need to do. So I'm going to go take a couple buckets, mix up that concrete real quick, pour it into here, pour some concrete in that, smear that around, and then go to my service. Maybe I get back this afternoon and I can start building and cleaning, and yeah, but that's the plan. I also still have to put plywood across here. I still want to put a plywood wall across that. I want to get the concrete in, and then I can screw plywood and everything to that after the fact, and then that will keep any kind of dirt from ever washing down or ever washing out of that. Okay, so mix up some concrete, poured it in our little spot there, poured it in that corner, poured it all along that ditch that I had through there. Then I was thinking it'd be really nice to have some solid lumber to screw to mount these stairs. So I took that 4x4, cut it to length, ran a ton of screws in it, sticking out so they were kind of like pieces of rebar, set it in that concrete, because that was a ditch full of concrete, set it in the concrete, pounded it level, put a level on it so it's nice and perfectly level, backfilled a little dirt against it. Now I have a perfectly level, set in concrete piece of pressure treated timber up against the other pressure treated timbers that I could build on, frame on, and, you know, screw something to as I start building my steps. So now I have something to screw to out here, something solid. I have a solid wall back here that I'll be able to screw to, and I have stuff back here that I can anchor down to. I can also still put timbers down off of this for everything to tie to. So it's hokey, but it's going to be solid. It will never wash out. And once I get this all framed this way in, yeah. Yep, yappity yep, and yep. Well, I'm back at it, drawing on the wall, trying to figure out my rise and run. And I was trying to figure out a stair, you know, a pie-shaped step there, so that when you came in, step, you had that one step there, and then a small step that way, and then it would go up, and it wouldn't be such a steep, because right there, before, the stairs are so steep going down, and then they landed pretty much in that same spot. So I figured if I lift that up, they wouldn't be as steep, but then we're losing our run. You got to be at least, you know, 10 inches of a platform for your feet so that you can get out onto it and up, kind of thing. The old steps were like 10-10s or 9-10. And I'm just trying to play around with platforms and markings that I'm drawing on the wall, and pretty much going to have to take my grinder and strip all that off and try something again, because it's not... The other reason I kind of want that one pie shape there versus nothing there and then a big step to get up, I figured it might give more room here if you're trying to bring furniture or something down. There's less something there, but that, I don't know. Try to picture it in my head, and then I can start framing and building and yeah, framing and building. Well, here's where I'm at. I'm just going to go 10-10s off to there so I have a little bit more of a platform, and just square them up and make them as solid as I can. And that's just what it's going to have to be. I tried the pie shape, but by the time I do a pie shape and lift and then over, you only have the problem with the pie shape stairs too. You only have a tiny bit at that end to put your foot on, and then you don't have enough platform to step on. So I'm just going to keep these tall and short so that you have enough footing, and keep nice 10-foot platforms for you to put your foot on, and maybe with like a little bit of an overlap with the step edge. Actually, I think I'm going to keep them flushed so I can put my flooring on it. But all right, that's clean up. Now I can start framing, and I'll start at my bottom, get it framed, and I'm going to basically build this entire thing out of a big skeleton of 2x4s. It's going to be way overkill with lots of lumber, and then I'm going to sheet the whole thing with pressure-treated plywood, and then it's going to get glue and the glue-down linoleum thick vinyl planks on top of that for its flooring. So, yep, that's what I'm going to do. So, overkill they are. Pressure treated against the wood. I'm still going to put ram sets in that bottom that pulls the bottom down. Every leg is supported to the other leg that has cross bracing that way, just like this has cross bracing plus bracing this way. Then I'm going to put 3/4 plywood pressure treated on top of all this. I can jump up and down on these 2x6s right now, and they don't even flex or wiggle. So that is about as cool as it can be. I'm going to take the oscillator and I'm going to cut out that piece of plywood so that when I do my sheeting, I'm going to tuck my sheeting all the way into this as much as I can so that it's touching the edge of the house, and I'll cut my plywood to meet the foundation as best as possible. So I'm just going to cut all that off, cut that down, cut rid of that little piece, and then I can put decking all the way down on it. it kind of works to have this whole platform to turn and stand on. I was kind of trying to get rid of basically those steps right there, kind of get rid of those corners was my original thought, so you had more room to slide mattresses and furniture and stuff in and out. But this is where it's at. I'm gonna go grab a oscillator blade that's sharp enough to tie that and cut some plywood. Well, there we are. They're not screwed down yet. I still need to throw 2x4s across the back and nailed and screwed down, so the back of the plywoods have some bracing back there. But for right now, like for temporary stairs to run up and down, they're going to be just fine. Yeah, so that was a crap ton of work for just a couple steps, but they're solid. They're hard to the house. They don't wiggle. The old ones definitely you could feel were definitely an issue because of the rotten boards there. Now that this is done, I can sheet that off and I can actually attach that. The whole plan of that was to build this wall and finish this wall around this plumbing and figure that out, but I have to get that done before I can get that. So there we go, stairs, and now lots and lots and lots and lots of cleaning. Well, we have gone from these rotten ass old steps that every time you stepped on them you thought you were going to fall through and just wobbled when you stepped on them, to nice hard solid almost feels harder than the concrete. Very happy with it. Way too much lumber in there, solid, secured. The dirt can never wash in that way. It's going to hold up everything. I still got to put fascia pieces on. Now I can actually build off of that to go this way. This board is way solid. This side of the house and this brace is actually now solid. I'm going to keep sistering boards and building boards to sister off that to now build this wall. But now I can kind of build off of those to come out here and kind of close this in and build this little wall on my next adventure. It's 8 o'clock at night. I'm going to go eat some dinner. I'm going to go home. I'm going to turn off these other lights. I'll talk at you guys later. This is what I got done. On to the next. I wasn't going to take... So, the flange that's supposed to be bolted to the floor and glued into the floor was silicone to the toilet, and the toilet was bolted to the flange. If anyone would have twisted sideways, the whole toilet would have just fallen over and broke.
Yep.
Yeah.
I said those bolts were really loose, man.
Well, I told you the bolts are loose. The bolts are always loose because they're loose in the flange.
I didn't even have to unscrew the bolts. I could have just picked the toilet
100%. You could have just lifted the toilet up. Oh my God, Tweek! I thought we're done with Tweek.
I'm glad you passed the plumbing inspection.
Well, we get to grind some of that out and pour a flange in, don't I? God damn it. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Tweek. Okay, so let's really dive in here to how bad this is of what Tweek has done. So this flange is supposed to be, you see these holes here, here, here. This flange is supposed to be screwed to a wooden floor, and that screws down, and it also glues. This is supposed to be glued in, and you can see where he took a grinder and he ground this down to fit inside of that flange. So that alone is wrong. It's not mounted. It was just sitting here like that. So if someone would have just rocked sideways, it would have just popped out. He then had silicone gluing it to the ground, and then tons of shims around it like yo to level it out. And it was just on a hope and a prayer that it was there. The other problem that we have, which I'm going to stick a rag in the hole so we don't get sewer smell and don't drop stuff in the hole, is this material through here. His floor patch that he's done is all just hollow garbage, and is just chipping right out like nothing. So I've got to beat all this out, beat around that, get that chipped out, so that I can then re-pour this and make it level, and then bolt the flange down and get the flange actually attached to the concrete, and then pour up and around it. Look how thick that is. So Tweek strikes again. I mean, it was bolted down. I wasn't sure who and what, but as much as the toilet was bad, or the shower flange was bad and everything that way, I was going to leave the toilet go around, but literally to put the sheetrock in here and finish this wall out, it was just going to be easier to take the toilet off, and thank God we did. So now we can get that done. It's one more thing. We'll get sheetrock on that. This wall has been framed, ready for sheetrock. We now have a braced corner wall covering our plumbing. All this needs a sheetrock here. Our steps are great. I am going to take this little goofy concrete pad thing that they poured here, and I'm going to cut it off right about here, and I'm going to pour another piece of concrete and even that up so it'll be one piece of concrete step sideways, and then when I do the flooring, I'll have a nice uniform set of steps, and then that will finish down into that and hopefully look way nicer. These steps are rock solid and heavy and hard. Very happy with how those came out. Very unhappy with how long it took and how much work they took, but that is done that way. We have green rock inside the bathroom. Got our plastic barrier, so you have vapor barrier behind. So then I put the vapor barrier, then I hang the rock over the top. So that's now done. We've got our sheetrock all the way around for our refrigerator pocket. So the refrigerator goes there. This is the back wall of where the sink's going. We made a little pocket up there. That's where the little mini split's going to go. So instead of being flush mounted, we made a little pocket for the mini split. And then I put, instead of sheetrock, this will all get sheetrocked in. That piece of plywood will be painted and then bolted in or screwed in. But if you ever have to take it off to service or maintain anything, you could take that off the wall to get in behind the unit. The other mini split is going to go in here and mount above there. And that will take care of air conditioning and a little extra heat. Things are moving right along. It's really cool to see sheetrock on stuff. Really starts helping the finish look. We even have got sheetrock thrown on the backside of this. There's going to be so much mudding and patching and fixing. You can see in here where like we've lifted and leveled the house. So this crack that's from when we jacked and leveled it up. It's an old crack that was there that they just piled mud in and back and forth. I took my grinder and kind of opened it up so that I can get mud in it a little bit heavier. You see the foams areas and things this way. Some of the bigger holes I will take, and I take the fire blocking spray foam. I put spray foam in and then I grind it, let that sit for a few days. It needs to be good and cured, and I don't sand it with a saw to get little flakes. I actually grind it with a grinder. Then I put one coat of mud over it with that fiber mesh, and I put that over the top, and then I sand that, and that gives me a really good base for then using clean, nice mud to start doing finish work and detail work. But that way, it's kind of a dirty way to go along. A lot of people don't like using foam behind your mud because the pieces of foam kind of flake off and then you get little chunks of foam in your mud. That can happen. That's why I use dirty mud. I only use one bucket for mudding over foam, and then the rest of my mud is when everything's done after that's been sealed up and taken care of. But with old lath and plaster like this, you're going to have huge voids and problems. And so this house is going to take a lot of very slow detail mudding to get all our edges nice. And then I do want to do a nice like Venetian texture and some different stamp textures and things throughout the house to balance it out and clean it up before paint, which will take a lot more time, but we're definitely getting it further along. Follow along for more. That's where I'm at right now. I don't think I'm going to get much more done tonight, but that's where I'm at. And part of chipping that up, and the floor is kind of hollow, and back to Tweek being Tweek, there's dirt under this floor patch. So how's it going to stick when there's old painted floor? There was no prep or anything done to it, so it's just, he just smeared it, stuck it on top the old existing slab. So look how easy that is. Pull it up. Oh my goodness. Just crazy. Yeah, just the old slab that was there. He just kind of poured it on top of the dirt. Ha! More work is always more work, right? Do it right the first time, maybe. That was all of 30 seconds of just sliding a nail bar across it. Look how thick some of that is. Down over here where it was up, just patch crap on top of patch crap, layer on top of layer. So we will grind this, prep it, put a primer down, and then do a polymer cement, and we'll float this all out after I get the toilet flange in there properly, and then we'll pour up against the toilet, so that will have a nice level spot for the toilet to be on. But I'm also going to grind and level all these other spots in here, so we can just do that at the same time. It's not the end of the world. It's just one more thing that needs to be done. That is getting very satisfying to actually have some sheetrock on these walls. A little bit on the lid. Yay! Stay. Well, I'm getting a little rock hung. I am painfully slow at putting sheetrock in. It's one of those things that I am so envious of guys that know what they're doing and they get it done really quick. But one thing, we took out that goofy half round step, the good old Tweek poured there. And because of the way we built the stairs, still want to get something in here. So I want to frame in and come straight across this all the way across and basically have more of a square step. That'll also be easier to put flooring in. There's almost nothing I could have done to put flooring on that goofy thing that he had there to begin with. So yeah, I'm going to frame this out to just more of a straight shot across here, and then I can patch that floor, get that filled in, and have a proper step there. And then we're one step further closer to finished floor for doing that. So I'll frame that, get that poured, and show that real quick. After a little bit of framing, we have some fresh mud poured. That gives us a nice flat edge going all the way across. Now when I do my flooring, I'm going to have the same flooring on my steps coming down, and then the flooring can curve, and now I have a nice straight edge that I can either finish my flooring from there up or there down, and then that floor hole is now patched into that. Once that dries, we're going to grind all the concrete down everywhere in the floor, all our transitions from when we poured the sewer lines. We'll grind all these edges, grind those edges down, and then I'll do a very thin floor float over this whole floor, get a nice even flat floor through this entire basement, and then we are doing the glue down carpet tiles for flooring, so it'll take a little bit of contour and shape, and it should look really nice. But since we got that now poured, I can put my concentration over to Tweek's latest problem of this awesome toilet flange situation in here. And he has, we're going to floor float and fix this. We've chipped out all the concrete in here. Then we'll grind this floor also and level this out a lot more and at least get this floor nice. But when I jackhammered all this up, I really should have pulled the toilet before and redid the flange all the way out. And then I could have glued and set the flange. But I only ran the concrete to that edge and went that way and just left the toilet mounted on the floor, because with the wall that was here, I didn't see underneath it. And I should have just tore it all out to begin with, but now that I didn't, now I'm in this situation where the flange that he had not glued and ground and kind of put in, no matter what you do to this to put it in that floor, it's so crooked and cattywampus. It's absolutely insane. So they have this style of flange here that takes this little rubber seal that screws into this, and then it screws down into there, and then it presses down in, and it can get a seal down inside, and it fits snugglish. And I think with some caulk and things that way, I can make that work. But I'm working on some other things. I also have this one with the metal flange so that I can bolt it in. But I'm going to need this so high to go to the level. Let me see if I get the phone right. You know, it has to be something like that to get that to bolt in. So what I'm trying to do is get this mounted to the plumbing so that it's secure, so then I can pour some concrete around it and get this, you know, fitted in. But it's going to have to be yay high. So that's going to be a thing. I'll get working on that, and let's see what I figure out for a solution. Now, trust me, to do this right, I fully understand that we should be saw cutting all the way around the toilet flange, digging it out, cutting the PVC off, re-gluing a new piece of pipe, setting the flange to a perfect level position, gluing it in, pouring new concrete in, then coming in and floating the floor and floating it to that position. I'm just not at that position right now, and I really don't feel like doing it, so I'm doing it this way. Here's the solution I came up with. So this piece that has this threaded rubber gasket that goes on here that can screw in, the gasket's actually adding enough thickness because I need to offset this enough in there that the gasket's not allowing me to come sideways with it. But I need this to float off the ground and be level before the concrete's in. So to get this adhered to the PVC pipe, we have nice ribbing for it to glue into. I'm going to take some bolts and I'm going to put double nuts on them, and I'm going to make little feet, and I'm going to keep adjusting them until I can get this perfectly level. And then the little threaded bolts hanging underneath should have enough thread and nutrient in there that's going to hold the weight. And then when I pour the concrete around it and I can vibrate it underneath that, they should give something for the concrete to grab. And then this will be bonded to the pipe by using a construction urethane sealant in and around the bottom edge. So it'll be glued in through here where my thumb is. And then these ribs will also take a bunch of that. So I'll get a really great seal to the pipe. And then having metal bolts on all 4 holes, leveling it gets me to hold it in a level position. And then when the concrete's poured around it for the patch flooring, that should lock it in. I hope, maybe, possibly. Let's try it. So one, I am going to have to float the floor in here and get the floor level. So we put the level back in here and I have the floor somewhat level. Which is going to be, needs to be a little bit higher over here. So that gets the floor just, you know, slightly higher than what we are in here. So the flange needs to be the height of the level across the bottom. And then we have to have another level on it. You also need to be level side to side so that you don't fall off the toilet. The other part of this is when you bolt your toilet down, the bolting flanges, you see how there's a wide spot in here for the head of the bolt to go into the wide spot and then slide for the lever. So you need this side-to-side area to be dead the same. So you need to draw a line across the middle of that and then measure from the wall so that the toilet doesn't end up being crooked to the wall. You have a little bit of adjustment here, but if you do it too wrong, the bolts will be in these big holes, and then when you put the bolt flanges in, they pop out of the holes, and it's not bolted to the ground. So I'm going to draw a line in this, measure off the wall, and make sure I'm square, and keep adjusting. But you can see how I've got bolts down underneath on that. Once I put adhesive on that and glue it in, and then pour the concrete in, the concrete's going to grab the bottom of the carriage bolts. Some are upside down both directions, so that will grab the threads, and that should give me a nice solid surface. after it's set up, I take a die grinder and I can whack off those bolts and drop the top of the bolts off, and then that will be locked into the floor and should be good. So that's my solution. I'm going to make a couple more adjustments, caulk it in. I'm going to go mix up just a tiny bit of concrete for this floor patch so that just the toilet area is good. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm just going to get it glued in, get it set, and then it'll be ready for the concrete leveling, and I can do all the leveling at the same time. Okay, so it has the construction 2-part urethane sealant down inside. So I have that totally sealed up in there. And then I stick a rag in just so that odors and smells can't come up through that pipe anymore. We've got pretty good thickness underneath for concrete to get underneath and bond all those bolts. You can see the sealant coming up through the bottom. I am squared and leveled off for 12 inches off that back wall to that center flange. So that'll be tight to the wall and everything like that, but that gets that there. Toilet's level. Now when we put the floor in here and put the floor level across that, we'll have nice height. Of course, it doesn't go that high. It's more like down in there, but we'll be floated up against that wall. Anyways, level and level. There's that. That gives that plenty of time to dry. Back in, I was going to start throwing a little more sheetrock in. It's getting a little later on Friday. It's a beautiful day out and haven't seen sun in a little bit. So I think I'm going to enjoy some outside. We do have the house pretty clean. Those steps are going to be great. That's going to seal up nicely. Once we patch this wall and finish this wall off, everything in there will be very good. This has been cleaned up. It's ready for floor patch. The upstairs fully sheetrocked in all the way around in the bathroom. So it'll be ready for mud and things that way. We're fully rocked in there. Yeah, came along great. This week has been a lot of progress. You know, Tweek strikes again on a bathroom flange, which I should know just to tear everything out that he even touched. I went right up to the edge of the toilet, but didn't take it completely out. Like I said, it's super nice and sunny outside today. People are mowing lawns and watering. I'm going to take out a little bit of garbage, clean up my mess from the concrete, and I think I'm going to call that a day. That's one more week of the house Tweek messed up, but we're getting along. It's coming along great. If you're enjoying them, thanks for watching. You everyone have a great one. It's a beautiful day. Enjoy your weekend.